Art is history. Economics is history. Who is in power right now and how the economy works is a historical phenomenon thanks to wars that have been fought forever. And I think that if we stopped looking at things from a mechanistic standpoint and we started seeing it as more of an entire story that's giving us like a lineage of understanding how we've evolved intellectually.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live for the very first time. Not even live. This is iNSPIREDistraction podcast with your host, me, Mr. Inspired. And our very first guest, it's an absolute honor and a privilege to have him aboard the iNSPIREDistraction spaceship. And it's Garrett Livingood. Thanks for being here, Garrett.
Yeah.
I can't say thank you enough.
Of course. Do I bow?
Yeah, you can do what you want.
Cool.
I'm going to work on that whole fluidity of that, but I think I'm on to something.
Hey, man, the warmer it gets, the more liquidy the liquid gets.
Yeah. And
so it turns into vapor, and then it's, I don't know, then you breathe it in. Then you inspire. You like that?
Yeah, can you smell that inspiration?
Yeah.
I didn't say perspiration, guys. I said inspiration.
Smells good in here.
Yeah.
All right.
Which reminds me,
What
to the listeners out there and to the viewers, I don't want to neglect anyone involved in this momentous occasion. It is super early. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning. So if we seem a little drab, a little down, a little downtrodden, it's early, okay? Give us a break.
Yeah.
That's all. I remembered last night. I wanted to make sure I
made the point. People knew where we were in life, what time it was in the day.
Exactly. And maybe I think it's important to include...
Dude, being aware of the time is important.
Well, even more so, just I want the viewers and the listeners to feel included. Like we're not just forgetting that they're there.
Yeah.
We know you're
questions.
There. I hear you. I see you. I feel you.
Oh, be careful with that.
Okay. I'm going to disavow. Let me disavow every single statement that I just made.
All right. So where are we going, man? What are we inspiring today?
Yeah, today we're going to go down the road of spontaneity, my favorite road of all time. Just a quick shout out to the donut factories.
Thanks for all the diabetes, donut factories. America, Big Pharma could not thank you enough for all of the sugar that you are releasing into our diets. So one more time, just thank you for all the diabetes you're giving us.
Thank you to the diabetes.
Big Pharma would thank you again, too. So
hey, shout out to type 2. Shout out to type 1.
Don't forget type 3.
Is there such
diabetes
a thing?
Isn't really a joke.
There's no type 3.
I think there is. Maybe not. I don't know.
There's not a type 3. I know. I'm an expert.
But
I have family members. This stuff runs in my genes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, not my genes. Hopefully not, but yeah, I've got some people who are on the needle, if you know what I mean.
It's sad, man. I think
it's not sad. They make it work. I actually read something that insulin, something about. Oh man, I wish I was smarter.
It shuts down the pancreas. So once you start getting insulin shots, your pancreas stops working. So type 2 diabetes can be reversed if you do like crazy diet change.
Are you looking this up?
No, this is just stuff that I know. I just know a lot of random stuff.
Well, I was going in a different direction with this.
Oh, sorry.
It makes you live longer. It's like the key to longevity. Something with the chemical in the insulin, like that they give you. Yeah,
I can see it.
I want to look that up.
I was watching South Park last night.
Look it up, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for look it up.
Look it up.
I'm just kidding. We'll do that later. Yeah, right, what? Cool. What about South Park?
Anywho, one of the kids was selling his insulin like drugs, and like shikes. Yeah.
That's a shikes moment.
That show is outrageous. Anywho, so what are we looking at? We're gonna look up the power of myth.
Also, for the viewers, let me just break down the layout of this show. Probably should have done that from the forefront, but if you've made it this far with us,
Thanks.
absolutely thank you. It'll probably just be me rewatching this video over and over to make it look like somebody viewed it.
Right.
But
right.
regardless, for me who's watching and for you, because I know you are there, I'm not that.
Are you talking to yourself right now?
No, absolutely not.
In the future?
I'm talking to you, viewer, my favorite fan. Part of the structure of this show is we're going to let the guest look up whatever they want to look up, and that's going to be our guide. So, with that being said, Garrett is on the path to giving us something to talk about.
Power.
Yeah, so what you got, Garrett? What you got for us?
So the power of myth.
The power of myth.
Yeah, so
Yeah, you're looking at
I've
one.
been on a Star Wars binge, and evidently the power of myth was one of the inspired books of the director. Why am I having a brain fart?
George Lucas.
George Lucas. There he is.
I am Lucas.
This is Lucas. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm inspired.
By George Lucas.
Yeah, that
Maybe,
too.
maybe a little bit. We all got a little inspiration in us from unbeknownst places in the world. Anywho, so the power of myth, I was recommended this book because I made a post about Santa Claus. Like, I think Santa Claus is kind of messed up and like depreciates your parents' investments into their life.
Hold the front door. You know, I saw this post. Hold on, shut your mouth. I saw this post.
Let's hear it.
I didn't even really read too far into it because it was you sparked something. I don't know if it was controversy or what, but it looked like I don't even know if I thought
warfare.
Yeah, not sure what I was thinking about it, but I know that this would be a great place to talk about it.
It is. I mean, Santa's just a weird thing, and I just think like we could do without it, and Christmas would still be great, and kids could still have an imagination, and we just don't need that. Like, we don't need to promote strangers breaking in your home.
I guess here's what I'm thinking, because
what are you thinking?
Was the post? It seemed like the post was more about should you tell your kids?
Yeah, I mean that's like the end of the line, like of the solution, like
that's not
even
a solution.
Being present, like, so Santa doesn't come to my house. He just doesn't. Like, my son, you know, he goes to his mom's house, and I haven't broken it to him. I'm letting him walk that line, but learning about Santa was like the first step to me, like losing my faith. Like, Santa became Jesus to me when I was like 10 years old. I was like, well, I mean, I lost Santa when I was like 5, so I had like a 5-year period of like, well, I'll still believe. But then like someone brought up the idea of like, well, if Santa's not real, what about Jesus? And I was like, a 10-year-old going through like this revelation in his head, like, everyone's lying to me.
Well, let's be fair.
Yeah.
Jesus is not coming down your chimney at night.
No.
And he's not, bringing you presents.
Well, that's where Jesus messed up.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably.
I'm teasing. I respect the religion.
Yeah, to all the Jesus lovers out there,
well,
myself included, he's a great man.
Yes, he was. So far as the historical documents are accurate that we can record, I think he was a great man.
I think I'm going to turn into. I think I'm trying to figure out my personality. I gotta have some stick to it.
Yeah, you do.
Stick-to-itiveness, and so. If you want to go and start a commune and
one day, man,
live on the land, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, one day.
Yeah.
You've already got the community garden.
Absolutely. For those of you who don't know, gardening is essential to longevity. I'm making this up on the spot.
No, it's good for the health, though. Getting your feet in the dirt, even eating dirt builds healthy gut back. Like, eating potatoes that have dirt on them still. I mean, you get like gut bacteria from the dirt. Like, let kids eat dirt, man. Let them put their mouths wherever they want. They're going to get sick and they're going to be stronger because of it. But
that's fair. Back to the kids. Telling them about Santa
Poor
Claus.
Kids.
I didn't comment. Let me just give you my theory.
Yeah, what's
my
your
my
theory?
take on that. You just let the kids figure it out. If the kid figures it out and he asks you, you can be honest with him. But
Yeah.
I say at first you're not honest. You got to lie at least a couple times. You got to make them, you got to make them dig.
My next kid's not gonna have a say now.
Yeah, but see, and then but it does get into tricky waters because you have to tell
I'm gonna
him.
be on a commune.
Yeah,
so.
you have to tell him, hey, now don't tell the other kids.
He won't be around other kids that believe in Santa.
Don't tell the other ones.
I'm gonna extradite him from all the ignorance.
The others can't know.
We're gonna go and live on an island. Golly, I wish I can dream though, right?
Hey, I was watching this show. It's called The West. Came
Yeah.
out in 1994 on PBS for anybody who's interested. It's on Netflix. Check it out.
Yeah.
Each episode's an hour and 41 minutes long.
Ooh, it's almost as long as Star Wars.
And there's a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't do that kind of stuff anymore.
No. Well, they have series now, so they change like how we distribute.
This is
media.
a series.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, but it's there. I mean, there's a lot of history to the West.
Yeah. There's a lot of history, man.
But
we can't learn all the history. All we have is story, and like story condenses history.
yeah, that's true. So yeah, the stories they're telling are about the West and the Native Americans.
Mm.
They keep referring to them as Indians, and I'm thinking, okay, we know they're not Indians.
I mean, like, they are Asian.
Okay,
Native Americans are basically Mongolian.
well, I don't think they would identify as Indian. But this was 1994 when
you're
this
right.
was produced, so I'm sure there was no PC around Indians or Redskins.
Right. Yeah, I was just
Oh,
thinking
yeah.
Redskins. I was like, yeah, no second thought about Redskins had come up yet.
Yeah, last
Sure.
night's episode that I watched, it was about the 49ers.
Mm.
In 1849, the California Gold Rush began.
Ah, that's why they're called the
40
49ers.
40,000 not immigrants. Well, maybe 40,000
Yeah.
individuals traveled west in search of a new promise. My mic went out right in the pivotal moment. 40,000 individuals traveled all the way to California in hopes of gold and fame. And 39,000 came back home desperate and tired for something because there was no gold.
For a lady. And
Yeah.
A home. Some bread.
Yeah.
A lot of bread.
Yeah, this one guy went down there and he spent 18 months and didn't work out well for him.
Well, history is cool and all, but I'm going to talk about the power of myth because it takes us back to Santa Claus. And it's going to play a role in the storytelling of our, we'll tie all this together because I think the human experience is to travel, is to experience, and is to spread more knowledge and extend the lineage of the biology that's here on Earth. And I think that is our one job. And I think that space exploration is really going to be our next step for the human race. I think that we already are developing self-sustainable mechanisms whereby we can put that onto a spaceship. I mean, we've seen sci-fi for decades be presenting that. And I think it is where we're going. I mean, we're going to get bored. Like, we're going to develop a society where people don't have to work anymore. And we're going to need something to do. Why not send people off on spaceships? If we're saying we're overpopulated, let's start putting together intellectuals and sending them off and say, hey, you guys, go spread life elsewhere. I think, honestly, okay, so before I get too far ahead of myself, I want to talk about the power of myth because I've come up with an idea that I think Disney is blending all myth into one entire world where you see like Lost in Space is the prequel to Star Trek, which ends in, or maybe I'm not sure if Star Trek would be before or after Star Wars, but there's an interplay there. And I say that because when I was watching the newest Lost in Space, the ship that landed looked just like the Millennium Falcon. And when you watch Star Wars, they always talk about how old that ship was. Oh, you're in that thing? And it was like, well, what if that Millennium Falcon was the ship that's in Lost in Space? And that's like what it was. And so Lost in Space is about human exploration. Like, we found a new planet that we're all going to and spreading life to. And I say all that, and I'm referencing the power of myth. I keep saying it because.
Yeah, get to the point, Garrett.
I know,
Jeez,
dude. Look,
the listeners are tuning out right as we speak.
Guys, hang with me. Okay, so, I just looked at a light, it blinded me.
Is that thing too much right there on you?
It's actually good to have that light. But the whole idea of the power of myth was the fact that the idea that humans need myth to be under control, and that our free wills need to have something beyond our own intellectual capacity to like believe in order to guide us to a new world. And George Lucas wanted to create a new myth for the human race to live upon and refer back to, about that included all of the archetypal themes that's in all literature. So there's the hero journey, there's good versus evil, there's rise and falls, there's all of these different things you see that's presented in Star Wars, the Force, like some imaginary godlike entity that exists. And I think it's like I have a computer, I should look it up, but there's like some like it sounded like mitochondria, which is like the energy producing part of a cell. Mm-hmm. But in Star Wars, that's what the Force is, and it surrounds certain people and protects people, and you can place that mito. I'm gonna put Star Wars
Yeah, and while he's looking this up, guys, I'll take this opportunity to stall. Midichlorian.
I think. Yeah. Midichlorian. So it's a good play on words of the mitochondrians.
Are you pronouncing that properly?
Yeah. Midichlorian.
Hey, if you're a scientist and you would like to be on this podcast, I would love to have you. If you're not a scientist and you would like to be on this podcast, I'd love to have you.
Yeah, call our BS if you hear it.
If you're not interesting, I don't want you on this podcast because I'm not interesting enough, okay? There's only one not interesting we can have on this thing.
I don't know. There's a lot of like popular people that are very uninteresting but would get a lot of views. What is your take?
Hey, if you're popular and uninteresting, that's fine. We do popular as well.
Anywho, so I think it's just really cool to carry that idea that like science fiction is the myth for our generations to refer back to, as religion has been our myth up to this point. And it's just interesting to like look back on the history and the predictions. Like the Mayans predicted the year 2000, like we'd have a new calendar year. It's like, well, maybe it's just a new year of myth. Like it's the new century of myth that is going to be prevalent. I think that I've always kind of battled with myth because I like things to be grounded in reality. But I'm not everyone. Maybe some people do need myth.
Now, is science fiction like a myth of the future?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just futuristic thinking.
Now, that's different than, most of the myths I think we think about are in reference to the past, or are they not? Like
yeah.
I think of Santa Claus.
Well, I mean, the myth of God, like, it's all mythological. It's not saying it's fake. It's just mythological. So yes, usually it does deal with like a historical like event. Like these were our gods before we were here, and we just called them gods. But it was a historical thing. But futurism is the idea of building a better future and looking into like what if.
Okay, here's something interesting to think about.
Yeah.
As I watched this documentary, the reason I watched it is so I could have something to talk about today.
Yeah, so let's talk about some history.
We think about the Native Americans and or Indians and or, I should probably just call them by their tribal names. I think that's more so how they would identify, like the Cherokee, the Chippewa, the
Blackfoot. I've got a little bit in you, know what I mean? Supposedly. I'm not trying to act like Elizabeth Warren over here, but...
Black Bear Mountain. No. Anyways, the point of this, these guys, they lived, they had their myths of creation and where they came from and the land, but they were very connected to the land. They were very, I think they believed in essentially what is like animalism, right? We're all animals, and everything that's living is an animal, and it has a spirit. And if I'm misrepresenting
I'm sure there's many different interpretations depending on the tribes.
They do, yeah. There's many different religions.
You know, but from my knowledge, you sound pretty on point.
The main point I'm getting to is, at some point, there was the clash between the United States government and these tribes who were still on their land, which because that's where they had always been. And essentially, the United States just came through and said, hey, you guys have to go, because for one, they didn't speak English, and I don't know if they were taking money out of the economy and the white people didn't like it. I'm not sure the exact reason, but the bottom line is I just saw this contrast, the uncivilized versus the civilized. And when I look at it, I want to say the Native Americans have a much more ideal way of looking at the world.
Yeah.
But yet it's that same way of looking at the world that really, if that had continued, it would just, we talk about spaceships, we talk about, being an interplanetary species. That's not going to happen if we're thinking like the Native Americans. They say,
yeah, you got to evolve your thinking.
Well, they didn't believe in, not they, I shouldn't say they, like they're all one group. I'm sure some did, but for the most part, I don't think they weren't the type to go and, put a hole in a mountain or dam off a river, essentially reform nature to their own benefit. And that was something that they were opposed to, because they looked at the land and they looked at nature as sacred, something to be respected and not to be controlled and dominated by us. Like we're over the land because we are a part of the land.
Well, we're caretakers of the land, and they understood that. I mean, that's why, the whole thing with like the association of corn and Native Americans, like they were great gardeners, and they understood that the world is vitalistic, like it'll repair itself. So that's why they moved, is they would come and use the resources, plant the seeds after they were done eating, and then follow the buffalo to the next area, and then eat the buffalo shrooms and eat the berries off the tree and have a nice night, and then go to the next place. And everywhere they went, they would be replanting and actually rebuilding back the that was our timer. It's okay.
It's our timer. We're going to reset this camera. Garrett, hold that thought. Right now, we're going to head to a commercial break. If you've stayed with us this long, you need to find something better to do. Trust me.
Or not, guys. Or you can go listen to my podcast, GMC Talks.
Yes, please do that. That's going to be much better. Yo.
Yeah.
It's Inspired Distraction. We're back after that commercial break. Thank you to our sponsors. Hey, if you want to sponsor us, give me a call. My number is 555-555-5555. That's right.
Was that the proper amount of numbers? I think it was. That's good.
Oh, yeah. I timed that.
Practicing.
We're live.
What's cooking?
Well, you were talking about something. What were you talking about?
Just the importance of story. I mean, all we have is perspective, and you've been going back and learning about history, and I think that's incredibly important to get your history from, source your history from different departments, and learn the history of the economic side, learn the history of the social side, the human side, learn the history of the psychology of where people's mindsets were. I think when you look, we have broken and divided our education system out in a manner that is good for studying it, but it's so mechanized that we don't understand it. We have like art, and we learn about art, but art is history. Economics is history. Who is in power right now and how the economy works is a historical phenomenon thanks to wars that have been fought forever. And I think that if we stopped looking at things from a mechanistic standpoint and we started seeing it as more of an entire story of humans, and I think there's a lot of documentaries that are doing a great job, like The Story of Us, that's giving us like a lineage of understanding how we've evolved intellectually and socially. And I think we're still making those steps of evolution, and I think technology made us step further apart momentarily, but only long enough for us to gather our bearings and come back together. And I think we're at the furthest space away. We are in the Christmas night of the sun. We're finally coming back together. The sun's finally going to start rising and giving us more sunlight from here on out. During Christmas time, Christmas night's like the lowest the sun gets, and then it starts coming back up and staying up longer throughout the, let's see what it's called.
The winter solstice.
The winter solstice. There you go.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think so.
If it is, I'm very impressed with myself.
Anywho.
Hey,
so,
well, hold on. I'll let you search for
how
that.
the world works. It's give and take, and I think we're on the step of progression. I don't think we're regressing. There's a lot of negativity out there.
All right, so this is what it comes back to for me. We talk about progression. We talk about civilization. We talk about Native Americans versus Europeans versus people, essentially. So the Europeans were running away from tyranny. They were running away from taxes, from whatever they were running from. Who knows? But they were running away, yet they were running into someone else's place.
Mm-hmm.
And they were running into a different philosophy on how to live. And this progression, to them, civilization is progression. To the Indian, I just did it.
It's okay. No one.
Sorry, Indians.
I mean, there's gonna be mad people, but they're gonna find other reasons to get mad. So people who are with us are with us. People who are against us are just against everyone else too. So
yeah, that's right. I'm gonna just say it because we're so far into this, nobody's gonna even watch. If you watch this far, you don't care if I say it. All right. So here,
not against us.
Look, civilization, government, organized society. We call it progression, but it tears away any connection that we can have to the land and to the earth.
Mm-hmm.
The problems you see with having the philosophy and the lifestyles of Native Americans is tribalism, obviously, is not a good thing because it divides people and it separates people. So because of the tribalism aspect of it, we say, no, that's not good because people can never get along. So there's this part, it's so twisted. You have to have basically someone come through with an iron fist and say, this is the way it is. And then all of a sudden, hey.
That's the empirical force, by the way.
The empirical fist comes through and says,
there you go.
Hey, you want an empirical fisting? Well, I don't care if you want it, I'm giving it to you. And then next thing you know, we're progressing. Society is moving forward for the better.
Supposedly.
Well, that's what you're saying, essentially. And I think most people would agree, but it's just kind of, it's really strange to think that we have to throw away the things that really connect us to this thing, life, existence, like where we come from. We don't come from Europe.
Right.
We don't come from Miami or Miami.
Oh, we come from the earth. I mean, honestly, I think the idea of grave sites is gross. I think we should be going right back into the earth and we should let our body, like, stopping the natural biological process is not right. Putting us in coffins and burying us underground, there's something not right about it. It's not natural.
Well, it's like, what's the line between natural and
decay?
Well, I mean, there's got to be a line between like natural and normal,
and then
right?
There's decay. If you're bypassing the development or the or you're bypassing decay, then there's something unnatural happening. It's like the development of GMOs. Like there's something unnatural about it because you're tampering with the development. If you're tampering with the decay side of it, that is also unnatural. And so it's like you're when you're taking ibuprofen, you know, it's unnatural because it's decaying your organs and your kidneys and liver. Like your organs aren't supposed to be processing that. And so it's decaying it. It's unnatural. Is that a good synopsis of what makes natural and unnatural?
Yeah, that works.
It'll fit.
It gets tricky because it's like, how can we live naturally?
Yeah, well, there's no 100% way.
There's no way.
No,
But
not yet.
Monks?
I think they are probably still getting outside resources in the 21st century. Maybe some of them aren't, but I think the majority of them probably are still getting like food from, maybe not. Maybe they do have 100% holistic gardening. I mean, a real monk.
I mean, monks that live in monasteries, I'm pretty sure they grow their own food. And
Yes, but there's also like, even going into the monkhood, like there's even like weird thoughts of like you're not supposed to kill bugs and like insects that are eating your plants, and it's like, you know, there's a place for that. There's a place for killing bugs. You know, there's a place for killing animals for the preservation of more life. And I think like whenever Sam Harris makes a really good point about how.
Thank you, Sam Harris. I'm just kidding. I don't know who you are.
I love Sam Harris, dude. He's such a good speaker. He's such an intellectual as well. But he talks.
Is he from Canada?
No, that's Jordan Peterson. But they've done some debates together, and they're
funny.
kind of counter thinkers. So they're like opposite ends of the pole, but they're both kind of in the same space in terms of free will compared to conformity. So Jordan Peterson is very much so in line with like having a hierarchical, understanding the hierarchical structures in the universe, as compared to Sam Harris is very much so secular, ground things in reality for me. And like, I don't want to hear myth. Like, I can understand literature without like having to believe in a higher power, like show me a higher power. And so it's more of like a religious contextual like difference between the two. But Sam talks about just how he had an author on his show talking about the destruction of empathy and how empathy leads to tribalism, because you can only be empathetic towards a certain number of people before you stop caring. So like a little girl in Africa who's getting, you know, taken advantage of, your heart goes to that. But now you have a whole tribe of people, which includes that little girl. Now you're disconnected because there's too many of them to actually feel empathetic towards. And so same goes with like, if I'm empathetic towards you and I feel you, I'm more likely to want to feel your pain because I can't do anything about you feeling good. But if you're hurting, then I can try to attack what the stimuli that's affecting you. So if someone hurt you, if I'm empathetic towards you, I'm more likely to enact anger and negative emotions rather than just being indifferent towards you.
So in this progressive world, this progressive civilized world, it's better for you not to care about me. It's better for me not to care about you.
I think everyone should have themselves as number one.
Kind of holds society back if you think about it.
People need to work on themselves first before we try to like act like we want to save the world.
No,
like,
I'm not saying first. I'm just saying like permanently. Like there's no point in you caring about me and me caring about you.
Well, that's the social contract. That's John Locke's social contract. So that goes into like how we develop a social contract to have to care about each other to an extent because you're my neighbor. I mean, that's a gold. That's what, you know, love your neighbor. It's a 10 commandment rule. I mean, there's like these social fibers that exist for a reason.
Yeah, but is that, there's just something about that doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
You can't be empathetic.
Well, it's to be careful of your empathy, to not let your empathy be turned into anger or turn into a tribalistic feeling where you can have your tribe, but you can't let your tribe guide you to negativity because it can very easily. And that's when you end up with cults that take advantage of people.
Yeah, you don't want to take advantage of people. That's not good. Well, you know.
It's true.
It is.
It's true.
So let me use this as a segue point.
Ooh.
Because we've got a limited time.
Let's hop on that segue.
Very limited time here. My buddy's got to go to work. I don't know why, because this podcast is going to make billions.
And billions.
Yes, so much money. There's no point in going, bro. However, you do have to go to work. And so I want to get down to the brass tacks.
Okay. Let's brass it.
You go by Garrett Livingood?
I do.
Is that your stage name?
Garrett with 2 R's and 2 T's and Livingood with 1 G.
Yes.
Yes.
Garrett,
Sir.
2 R's, 2 T's, 1 L, 1 G.
Middle name's Parker. Sometimes you'll see Garrett Parker Livingood. Cool little side story. My partner, Susan, her last name's Parker. So we'll eventually both be Parker Livingoods, and I'll probably stick with Garrett Parker Livingood as my full name.
That's pretty cool. I was thinking about just taking my fiance's last name.
Really?
Yeah, call me Josh Ziegler.
I like that.
It's my new identity, people.
Oof.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? You have an identity. Everyone has an identity.
Talk about a quarter-life crisis. Okay, so,
Anyhow.
but more about you. I mean, this is why you're
Okay,
here. We're
yeah.
not here to talk about me. As cool as I am,
I
I'm not
appreciate
that
it.
cool.
You're pretty cool.
My buddy G Money. I'm sorry.
I used to
Garrett-
go by G Money. Well, kind of on the athletic fields.
Well, didn't we all?
Yeah, we were all money.
First,
We cost a lot of money for our parents.
yeah. So Garrett's got a book coming out
I do.
here in the very near future. And, I think ordinarily when you do this sort of thing, you're supposed to like read the book and then I'm supposed to have questions based off of what I read. And I haven't read the book because the book's not out.
It's
But
not released.
as a little sneak preview for
Yeah.
the people out there, and of course, we'll have you back on when the book is releasing. Hopefully by then we'll have more
Hopefully
than...
it'll be this summer. This coming summer, 2020.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I think at that point we should have more than 7 followers. And it'll be more
I have
beneficial.
like 5 emails, so at least have that.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I need. I need to make some emails. Just
Yeah,
make a
bro.
bunch. We'll be our own fans, okay? We should make an app that just creates like 300 emails.
It's
at
called
once.
India, bro.
That's true. Not Indians, okay? It's a different.
No, they're real India.
So when it comes to this book,
Yeah.
what it's about your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know you from playing soccer,
Yeah,
and who knows how we ended up being connected after that. Probably.
through Keegan, really. That was our first reconnection. You were making music with Keegan.
Keegan, and I met Keegan playing soccer too.
Did you?
Yeah. We were on my first ever soccer team. He was on my
Wow.
team.
That's
Yeah.
cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it was a what do you call it? It's not it's
Rec league.
co-ed.
Co-ed. Yeah.
Co-ed team. So
Guy
my
and
sister
girl.
was on the team as
Oh,
well.
that's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. Anyways, so we know that Garrett's a baller at soccer, and that was a big part of your life.
That it was my life, really.
So how does your love and passion for sports tie into your overall life story and the book?
Well, I had one single identity growing up pretty much, and it was an athlete. I was top performing athlete in baseball and swimming. I quit swimming pretty young, but I was in the state, swimming against the best swimmers in the state when I was 6, 7, 8, but I quit that because I wanted to focus more on baseball and soccer. And then as I was about 12 years old, I had pretty much ruined my wrist and elbow, shoulder from just overuse. And I was just tired of hurting, so I decided to focus on soccer. But I had a lot of pain in soccer. I played through a lot of pain, and I think that's a lot of what made me who I am, for sure. But when I was leaving high school, I had given up my scholarship because I decided that I couldn't keep playing through the pain. And I was driving to Milledgeville, and it was like 2 weeks after graduation, and I had like fallen asleep, woke up, and, the side of the road was going. I was like, oh shit, like I could have died just now. And I had this moment of like, if I died today, I would be no one, because I'm not even a soccer player anymore. Like, who am I? And it was just kind of like a quarter life crisis, maybe. Maybe that's what it was. I mean, I was 18 years old, and I was just like, I had this realization, like, I need to do something, because Like, I have learned so much in my life already, and I have things to share with people and ideas to share with people and beliefs that I have to share with people that I think if I died today, my life would be a waste. And that's the last thing that I would ever want for anyone, and for that matter, is for their life to not account for anything, just to end, and it to be a funeral and then just a sad reality for the rest of, whoever remembers that person. And so I decided, I was like, okay, so I'm going to start writing I'm going to start journaling. And I thought a journal was a great way just to record myself as a backup. And I think social media kind of plays a role as our journal now. People don't really think about that, but it is our really digital journal. But I just started writing, and it was a lot of poetry. You got something to say?
Oh,
okay.
I'm totally with the, this is a new time in history for journalism and for just even personal journalism. I mean,
right.
I had a buddy of mine, this will be brief.
Yeah, go ahead.
He's going through a custody battle, and you may know him. I won't mention him here.
He'll appreciate that, I'm sure.
Yeah. But, he's posting things on Facebook about the situation, about how it's affecting him, and this has never been a thing. Like, my dad could never get online and say...
And get social support.
Right.
For wrongdoings.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'm just saying...
I don't know their situation.
Luckily, my mother, she didn't keep me from my dad, so that was never an issue. He didn't have to deal with that. He did pay child support, though. Not that matters. All kids should be able to see their dad, unless they're drug addicts and they literally can't function.
Yeah, that's wise.
If it's a safety risk, then we're talking about something different. But the point being, he's saying these things on social media, essentially nothing bad, just, he wants to see his daughter, and it upsets him that he can't see his daughter, and she will be able to go on his Facebook when she's old enough to read and understand things, and she can scroll on back, and she'll be able to see that. And so, there was a time when mom could tell daughter or son whatever they wanted, and the child was essentially left to their own devices to, decide whether it was true or not true. And with social media, this does give an opportunity for those parents who don't necessarily have a voice in their child's life. It gives them an opportunity to make it publicly known where they stand and how they feel. And you can't take that away from somebody if you read it, unless they're just some sort of psychopath and they're like, but if you don't care about your kid, you're not going to care enough to post it.
Well, some people can't care about themselves enough to care about anything else either. And that's why you have to put yourself first. So you can give back with the fulfillment that overflows from within.
Oh yeah, but my thing is I know that a lot of the issues with kids is they feel like one of their parents abandoned them and one of their parents did not care. And so that at least that argument can be pushed aside with social media. It's given that parent the opportunity to put their foot in the ground, their stake in the ground, and say, hey, I do care about you and I want to see you, and I am not avoiding you, and I am not neglecting you because I don't like you or I don't love you or I don't want to be around you. It's simply there's something else.
There's immaturity in the parental relationships, basically.
Yeah.
That's really what it boils down to.
Yeah. And I didn't mean to cut you away from your story. So
well, it's a good point.
Ahead.
I have a son. So my first year in college was pretty wild. And both wild and out, and also like just wild. But I got home. I finally made it to Milledgeville, and I just started writing. A lot of it was poetry. A lot of it was ideas. I did some short stories, and that year I found out I might be a father. And so I had to wait 9 months to learn to see if Cooper was indeed mine, and he was. So I became a father my first year in college. I had surgery my first year in college on my hip. And so there was just a lot of struggle and pain going on that first year. And writing was my outlet. It was really my first art form after pottery. And even like I always enjoyed writing. But really soccer was my first art form, let's be real. And that's kind of how soccer played a role in my life, is like it was an art form that I went so deep in the knowledge and skills capability that I could transfer that understanding of how deep you can go into really any field, media, health. I mean, I just understood there's different layers of knowledge that you can acquire through experience. And so working hard became really kind of like what I wanted to embody. But after my first year in college, I moved to Athens and I had a psychotic breakdown. And it was a very like spiritual journey-esque, but I mean, I went crazy and like it took me a minute to come back to reality.
Are you sure you've ever made it back?
I don't know, man. I don't know if anyone's in reality anymore. I think we're all in the Matrix nowadays. But anywho, so that was pretty traumatic, man. I mean, but that experience led me into finishing my political science degree. I wanted to go into law and defend people who have been taken advantage of by the medical system. Because I very much so was taken advantage of, Adderall-induced psychosis. There were other substances, but I was already in psychosis before I had taken the other substances. So it was just a big, convoluted experience that I was given the opportunity to experience. I don't think a lot of people many people have taken themselves there and come back. But I came back. I started back college 3 months after I went into the hospital. And so the next semester I started 2 months after. Next semester I started back, passed all my classes with A's and B's at KSU. And
shout out to KSU.
Yeah, Kennesaw State University.
Get it together, KSU. We know the problems you're facing.
They trying, maybe. I don't know, but
overpopulated, underpaid staff, and faculty. Our heart goes out to you.
Yeah, they are. You're right. There's underpaid staff there pretty heavily. The professors definitely deserve to make more, but that's not my really. I guess I'm alum, so I have the right to say that. But
we can all say it.
Yeah.
If you've been involved in a school that's in the university system of Georgia, it's all the same thing.
Yeah, it is.
New World Order.
We're working on it. Hey, George Lucas just started a education file, Educatopia or something like that. Edutopia, online like education system to help you learn. I haven't checked it out, but I heard it on NPR.
K through 12?
Mm-hmm.
College?
I'm not sure if it's entered college yet, but it'll get there probably.
I know there's free online K through 12 education.
That's dope. Yeah, I mean, dude, we're living in a whole new age. We can learn whatever we want, wherever we want, however we want. But that's a part of the purpose, is like just to give people a new perspective. So I ended up redesigning my whole journal into different segments. So it starts off with basically the theories of my life, what I believe, how society should work, how philosophy should work, philosophy/religion, how we should view that, how we should view government, how we should view ourselves. And then after that, I go into my psychosis and kind of like what was in my head at that time. I think it's important for people to have someone that they can relate to see that they can get out of situations. And when I first started writing my book, I was just an athlete that lost their athletic ability. And that's all I had. And to me, that was such a great story, you know? I mean, especially if that's all you got. Like, I wonder how many athletes every day are getting injured and losing their ability to get back on the field. And I mean, that's more than depressing.
It's traumatic, right?
It is more than traumatic. That is, well, I guess traumatic is as bad as it gets.
Now
it is traumatic.
Let's back it up, and I want to hear about that. I want to hear about going from where you were in your athletic career to the injury, and what happened, what was on the horizon for you, and kind of what did you feel like was taken away?
I mean, I wanted to go pro. I actually talked to my college coach. He was my club coach the last 2 years as well. And
was that a real possibility?
Yeah. He told me, he's like, Garrett,
Because everybody wants to go pro. I wanted to go pro.
I mean,
Football,
yeah,
baby.
that's true. You're right. You're right. Well, I think a lot more people have the capacity to go pro as long as they can stay healthy. But he told me, he was like, Garrett, you're one of the best players I've ever coached. And that meant a lot because he's coached a lot of professional players. So for him to say that to me, because we were catching up this past week actually, and it melted my heart because it was like, it wasn't all in my head. Like I really was that good, and it's hard to like be humble as an athlete because your whole like pride is half of like in your self-esteem and your confidence in the abilities that you have is what makes you a great athlete. So like, it's hard to be humble as an athlete. And especially like, it's just, you just have to have that constant battle of like, be nice to other people, but then like, you got to like kick ass on the field, So it's just a lot going on in your head. But that's to me, what was taken away was just the chance of like following through and continuing to beat everyone on the field. And that was like the mindset. So I got a lot of mindset training out of sports, and that I was able to translate into other parts of my life. But yeah, I mean, I think sports are they're an industry, and that's how we have to see things, is like you can jump industry. Sometimes this industry isn't right for you. Sometimes this industry might be where you fit better. And I think your lifestyle, how your brain has developed, your culture, your family, even like how you structured your life and what you find interest in, all that's going to develop who you are, but you can always turn and do something new, especially in today's society. And I think people need a voice for that. I think a lot of people are listening to the Grant Cardone, like, forget about your family, like, you make $1 million, you're poor. That kind of conversation is very destructive for the future world. And I think
it's destructive for the current world.
Yeah, well, and the current world too. And
I mean, when somebody tells me $1 million is nothing, it doesn't. Oh wow! So I've just noticed a couple things here about the set. This is off. That's a little.
Oh, it's okay. No one was gonna notice it till you said something.
I know. Sorry about that. I think, for me personally, it puts a lot of pressure on me.
Yeah, it's unnecessary pressure.
But
some people need that. Pressure forms matter. So if you don't have pressure, you won't have reason. You won't be motivated.
Right. So in some sense, I think it's probably a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
As much as it seems like something to add to the trauma, I think pressure, expectation, standards, these things that we develop, these social constructs,
mm-hmm.
I think they're all intended to move us forward.
Right.
Give us purpose. Give us reason. Because if not, then we can all be monks in a monastery. And I hate to cut it off so soon. This is why when I started this thing,
mm-hmm.
like
an hour ago.
Yeah. When I started this journey 1 hour ago, I told myself,
deep into Lucas's room, he started this journey.
I told myself I would never put a time limit on a podcast because it ruins the authenticity. It ruins the moment, because maybe I just like the way I sound in the microphone.
Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe there's so much to freaking talk about that an hour just doesn't do it. I mean, it's like we talked about your book for 2 seconds. We talked about life and philosophy, history.
Yeah, we covered a good amount of subjects.
We did, but there's still a lot about you that I want to know. And unfortunately,
there's always more, man.
We just don't have time. What time you get off work?
I get off, so it's an 11 to 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock shift, and it's about an hour to close down. So I'll be done at 8.
Season 2 starts tonight at 10 o'clock. Come back and join us. Oh. Hold on.
You can find me on Facebook at Garrett Livingood. I'm on Instagram as Garrett Livingood and Twitter as, I think, G Livingood. 1022. I don't know. don't even know my Twitter handle, dude. I don't like. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
I feel like I need Twitter because I'm doing media now.
Okay, if you need Twitter, you need to know what your Twitter handle is.
I know. Dude. Yeah, Livingood 1022.
Yeah, you got that, guys. Hey, look, I want to go ahead and tell everybody out
I'm
there.
just Garrett Livingood on Instagram.
Hey, please don't talk over me, because look, it's gonna sound terrible if we're talking over each other. Sorry. It's okay. I forgive you. It's your first podcast. I mean, come on, you're learning. You're new at this.
Snapchat's g.livingood.
So we got Snapchat g.livingood, Twitter handle Livingood
1022.
Livingood 1022.
I'm pretty sure you can just search my name on any platform though, and you'll see my page. Right? Isn't that how that works? You can just search someone's name, and their like handle comes up.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you can look me up. Inspired Distraction.
You're on Instagram, right?
I'm on Instagram.
Inspired Distraction, right?
I'm on YouTube. I got 7 followers.
8. 3 of them. I'm just kidding. 1 of them.
I'm 6 of them. It's all good.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
No, I'm just
Well,
kidding.
this was fun, man.
Yeah, it was freaking awesome. Like I said, I wish we had more time, but you know, that's how it goes sometimes. When you're a big baller, you got big moves to make, and you know, you can't just, you know, hang around all day and shoot the shit, as they say. Yeah. So I'm gonna play some funky outro music, and if you want to bust a freestyle for the people on our way out, that'd be awesome. If not, just in case.
Next to the moon.
Oh,
like I'm drinking blue.
Oh,
but it's a witness. Can I get one?
Hallelujah.
Oh, now you do. Pick up your shoes. Walk in front of 1 by 2, and now it's 3. Pick up next to me. What you doing?
I think I might do this with all my guests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun.
No matter the caliber, we'll just do a little freestyle session. Okay. Now for the host. Hold on. I gotta go.
I got it. I was just considering what you were saying. Step back a little bit, you know. This goes out to all my fathers. This goes out to all my fathers. Actions speak louder than words would say. I'm a new man today. This goes out to all my fathers. This goes out to all my fathers. Actions speak louder than words would say. I'm a new man today. I feel like you don't think I have what it takes. What a shame. What makes a man protect and provide? And with this sober mind, a nigga no longer blind. Shit swallowed my pride, and now it's hard to digest. But then I feel lost and depressed. But give it your best, oh yes, and trust the process. Nigga, you ain't dead yet. Nah. What don't kill you make you stronger. It's time to step up. Your back's against the wall at gunpoint, and on your forehead's a red dot. Fake love and fake lies with suggestions. I don't need it, you can keep it. I have my reasons. Yeah. As you take on the label, sperm donor. As you get older, your heart gets colder, and that's not closure. Free game, I'm giving out free game. Free game. I'm like Batman, but I'm a Superman, yeah. This goes out to all my fathers. This goes out to all my fathers. Actions speak louder than words would say. I'm a new man today. This goes out to all my fathers. This goes out to all my fathers. Yeah. Actions speak louder than words would say. Yeah. I'm a new man today. Just had my first child, a baby girl, so precious, I'ma give it a whirl. Ain't talking diamonds and pearls, I'm dropping gems, I can't pretend, it all depends on you. She's a sponge and watching every single thing that I do. Don't apprehend or overspend, just comprehend, so true. Look through my lens and peep the cleanse, so don't quit just yet. Wipe off that cold sweat, and also never forget, everything in life is a liability or asset. Meanwhile, my mind's expanding. Knowledge plus wisdom is understanding. I'm so high up, just looking for that perfect landing. Learn your culture, Don't be a vulture, earn your prey like you're supposed to. Leave your mark, your mark. This goes out to all my fathers. This goes out to all my fathers. Actions speak louder than words would say. I'm a new man today.